Sellers, how much of your day is devoted to engaging with customers before it's swallowed up by busy work and administrative burdens? Here's where it goes wrong. A simple follow-up is never simple. With the countless hours and mental loads spent swivel chairing, there's not much left to do what you set out to do. Connect with your customer. It doesn't have to be this way. A new day is here for revenue teams. One where technology innovates faster than their business needs evolve, so the little things are taken care of for you. Time and energy isn't wasted jumping from tool to tool, and the customer is at the center of everything you do. At Salesloft, we're defining this new era with an unbeatable solution: Rhythm. Rhythm is our AI-powered workflow for the full customer lifecycle, and it's setting the standard for the modern era of selling. A seller's time is precious, and Rhythm streamlines your entire revenue workflow so you can create more pipeline, close more deals, and increase lifetime value. And the best part? Rhythm works seamlessly with the rest of the platform. Prioritize cadence steps with your hottest leads. Follow up after a meeting with AI-generated notes from conversations. Focus on high-potential opportunities and close more deals. Plus, with the deep partner integrations and an open API, sellers can finally spend their day in one platform, where data isn't just recorded, it tells you what to do. So it's time to say goodbye to the days of disjointed workflows and missed buyer signals. With Salesloft, you meet your buyer where they're at without all the extra noise. The result? A one-of-a-kind buying experience. More pipeline coverage, more momentum throughout the sales cycle, more won deals. The world runs on sales. Sales teams run on Salesloft.
Today we are redefining sales workflow. We are so excited to introduce Rhythm. We're doing it because we saw how hard it was for sellers to deal with ad hoc work, which is basically all of selling. Emails, meetings, really useful information about buyer intent from different products like G2 and Vidyard and HighSpot and Seismic. But all this information in different places. Sellers have to go one system to another, swivel chair, log in, check this, check that, do this, do that. They spend more time organizing than they do selling. In fact, a lot of numbers show that sellers are spending only about 25% of their time selling. And that's what you need sellers to do. You hire sellers because you want them to do human things, like connect, engage, build rapport, guide buyers. But they're not doing that. They're spending too much time on the rote mechanical tasks. Selling is still too hard. And that's why we are so excited to introduce Rhythm. Rhythm is the first AI-powered complete sales platform that gives everything a seller needs in one list. So they can walk in the morning, and instead of checking a bunch of different inboxes, they can execute on what they need to do to move deals along and win more. Rhythm is a signal-to-action engine. It's an engine that takes in any number of signals from within the Salesloft platform or from your tech stack or from a buyer response like an email. It uses a proprietary AI to rank all those signals. We call that the conductor AI, and it ranks both prospecting and closing signals and gives the seller a simple list of actions that are the most important to take in the order that they should take them. A signal-to-action engine has to be the answer for selling because selling is too complicated to be an if-then list. We can never anticipate all the different permutations. And that signal-to-action engine has to be open because in a modern system, you have to be able to take in signals from all different parts of the tech stack and serve those signals to a seller because the scarce resource is not data anymore. It's the attention of a seller. It's the time of a human being to connect with another human being. Some of the types of signals you might see are that a buyer responded to an email, or a buyer watched a video that you sent them, or a buyer is looking at some content that they might find in your HighSpot or your Seismic system, or that they're looking at a contract and you would really like them to sign that contract. All of these signals can come in to Rhythm and be ranked and prioritized, along with the fact that you just had a meeting but you forgot to follow up. Rhythm is a best practices machine. It not only takes in signals, but it makes sure your sellers are doing the right things with those signals. Signals trigger actions for sellers. We've been able to show a lot of customers Rhythm at events like Salesloft and also through our early access programs. We've had 15 customers in alpha or beta with Rhythm and over 1,400 users, so we've really been able to see how the system works. And we've learned a lot from those beta and alpha customers. We've also seen that Rhythm can really change outcomes, which of course is what matters for sales teams. One beta customer saw a 25% lift in productivity. That means they booked more meetings with fewer activities. This is huge. It gives your sellers back so much time. It gives them the opportunity to understand where it's most important to spend time. And outcomes are what feed back into Conductor AI to make the algorithm better and better and better. We are so excited to introduce Rhythm today. We can't wait to see what you do with it. Rhythm is going to change how sellers work. And to show you more, here's Frank Dale, our Vice President of Product Management.
When was the last time in your life you had a moment where you knew everything just changed? I'm excited to introduce you to our differentiated and disruptive vision, and we call it Rhythm. And it fulfills the promise to guide sellers to success. What you're about to see today is the culmination of our unique and category-defining investments in platform and AI, making us the only company that can bring you this product. Let's set the stage for today's demo. Everything we're going to walk through today is available now. If you're a new customer going on Salesloft, you'll start with this experience. If you're one of our existing customers, we're going to roll it out over the coming weeks, and you'll get a notification from us ahead of time letting you know when your rollout date happens. Here's what we're going to cover in our demo. We're going to start with a new concept called focus zones, which support the different ways that sellers need to work throughout the workday to be effective. Then we're going to show you how Conductor AI transforms buyer signals into a prioritized set of seller actions. So as a seller, I can always know that I'm working on the most important thing now. Next, we're going to look at a new concept called plays, which provide a customizable way to scale one-to-one best practices across the revenue lifecycle. And we'll close out then with our new partner APIs and show you some of the great ways our partners are building on top of Rhythm, bringing in buyer signals and data from across the revenue ecosystem to support you from first touch to close to renewal. Let's start our demo. When I come into Salesloft, this is our new homepage. And what I want you to notice here is at the top, I've got a few critical pieces of data. In our upper left panel here, it's telling me how many important actions I need to take today to move one step closer to beating my quota. In the middle, I can see what my pipeline is and how close I am to the number. Now, this is role specific. So that means if my role on the team is to build pipeline, like an SDR or BDR, instead of closing it, I'm going to see the metrics that matter to me. So it'll be things like meetings booked or opportunities created. However your goal, that's what's going to show up here. Now, we know that time management is everything in sales. And that's why the heart of Rhythm is down here. This is our AI prioritized set of actions. And that's where we're going to spend most of our time today. But before we do, I want to talk about a new addition to workflow. One of the things that we've learned when working with great sellers is that they use different work patterns throughout the workday. So we've built Rhythm to align to the best ways that you need to work to be effective all day long. And we've started with a new concept called focus zones. And you'll notice that we have 3 of those here. I've got a rhythm focus zone, a cadences focus zone, and a close focus zone. Sellers tell us that what they love about Salesloft is that we help organize their workday. It's one of the things they like best. And focus zones take that to the next level. So let's take a look at how we've evolved the cadence experience you know and love and taking it to the next level with our focus zone concept. So when I click here on my Cadences tab, it's going to take me into my Cadences workflow. And just as you can see in our old experience, I'd still see a list of cadences, but in our new experience, I get a lot more. Now, if I just want to run a cadence as I would before, I can click play and do that. But there are times during a seller workday that you sometimes want to run a specific group of steps, and then you're going to come back later and run the rest of the cadence. Now you can do that. So you'll notice as I click in, I can see all of the steps, all of the different groupings for this cadence, and I can run any one of those groups and then come back later and run the rest. It's a great enhancement. But we didn't stop there. We've added some great new filter sort options. One of my favorites, by the way, is this due date filter. But what's got me most excited is our new group by option. In our old cadence experience, once you started a cadence, you could group those steps by account, by time zone, by step type. But you couldn't do that across all cadences. In other words, you couldn't say, I'm going to pull out every step and run that as its own group. Now you can. So let's say for a second, I'm a seller and I might want to do a power hour, and I'm going to kind of roll throughout the day, going east to west. With my new group by option, I'm going to come down and select time zone. And now I've pulled out every step across all of my cadence actions, and I've got them organized. So I can go from London to Los Angeles with ease. Now, in addition to our cadences focus zone, we have a closed focus zone, and that's got all of the high priority actions for my in-flight deals and renewals. And you'll notice I've got great filter sort options there, just as I do for cadences. But our most powerful focus zone is our rhythm focus zone. This is that AI prioritized set of actions. We go deep on the challenges and obstacles that sellers face. And before we built this product, we wanted to look at the history of sales technology. One of the things that we learned is in the past, sales tech has tried to pull buyer signals from across the ecosystem into one central hub before. And it turns out, if you can't connect those signals to actions a seller can take, all you're doing is taking noise from one system and you're replicating it in another. And that slows sellers down. It doesn't speed them up. That's not what technology is supposed to do. That's what makes this product so revolutionary. Our Conductor AI ingests signals from across the revenue ecosystem, and it transforms them into buyer actions, but not just any actions, a prioritized list. So you are always working on what's most important now. Now let's take a look at this set of actions. Now I'm looking at this right now as if I am a seller that both prospects and closes. So what we're going to see in here is the optimal mix of activities for my day. You'll notice at the top, I've got things like responding to buyers for in-flight deals. I've got contracts to send. I've even got some prospecting activity. But what makes this really shine is the way we prioritize with our patent-pending Conductor AI. You can see here on the left that each action is preceded by the signal that led Conductor AI to bring it in. So in this case, Jacob Jones is one of my in-flight deals. I can see context on the deal here in the middle. And Conductor AI tells me why it's up here at the top. This deal is highly likely to close, so we need to get on it. And you'll notice as we go down the screen here, I've got everything I need. It's the optimal mix, everything from submitting my forecast on time to pulling forward prospects that are highly likely to convert. Now, this is particularly important for people that both prospect and close because it's really hard to balance your time between closing the pipeline you've got and generating the pipeline you need to make sure that you hit the number every single quarter. What we've already seen with our beta customers is Conductor AI is recognizing when to pull buyers forward based on their behavior, and that's leading to way higher conversion rates. In fact, one of our teams instantly went from booking 20% fewer meetings to 20% more in the following week, often in 20% fewer activities. Think about that. That's a 1 week difference, 20% higher outcomes in 1 week, just using Conductor AI. Now, your job in sales is not to learn how to use technology. It's not. Your job is to sell. It's to connect with buyers. And when we build technology for you at Salesloft, we design it around the way that you work. That means you log in and you just get started. No rocket science degree needed here. So let me show you how easy this is. I'll start with my first action here. I'm going to click on it, and let me point out an important fact. I didn't have to learn a new UI. It just took me where I needed to go. I'm exactly where I need to be. You'll notice in the upper right here, I've got all the details I need. I'm responding to a buyer that's replied to me. I've got all of the context I need behind me. I can write my note, quickly hit complete in advance. It's logged for me. I don't have to go to another system. I don't have to explain to my manager whether or not I'm doing things. They just know. And I'm on to the next task. Now, in this case, this is where our platform investments really shine. Conductor is pulling this in because I'm seeing that a buyer has viewed my quote 3 times. They viewed my DocuSign quote. So I need to send something else. So I can write a note, click on our DocuSign integration, and pull in the assets that I need. And I'm on to the next action. Now, in this case, it's suggesting that I reach out to Bob Brandish here. And it's saying to do it because he's gone through 53% of my video walkthrough. So conductors recognize this person's engaged and they're interested. Now, when I call Bob, I can reference the video that I've shared and I can pull out key points from the sections that he's watched. So Bob knows that I'm focused and prepared when I call him. So I can make that call, hit login complete, and I'm on to the next action. Now, what I want you to notice is I've done all of that in less than 5 minutes. It's just that easy. And when I navigate home, it looks like one of my buyers is interacting with our seismic integration. And as a result, Conductor has pulled in a new action because it recognizes we've got momentum in this deal. And as we know in sales, time is the enemy of all deals. So when you have momentum, you cannot lose it. Rhythm makes sure that you don't. Now, before we go deeper into Rhythm, I want to show you a new concept that we call plays. Plays pick up where cadences drop off. Cadences are great when we've got structured actions and we want to execute those in volume. They shine when we're doing prospecting. But when a buyer responds or a deal's in flight, communication often becomes ad hoc. And that makes it easy to fall through the cracks. This is where plays have your back. Plays provide a customizable way to drive best practices at scale. And this is how it works. When you come into Salesloft, you'll notice that we have 4 preloaded plays for you. We've got a library to start with. Each play is preceded by a signal. So in this case, the one that we're looking at here, a meeting was completed and a recording's available. Now, we believe a best practice is then to send a follow-up after that meeting. So Conductor, in this case, is going to generate a task based on the play and then prioritize it. And you'll notice we have all of these great plays up here as well as some partner plays. Now, what's particularly awesome about this is you can customize the way this gets done. So for instance, on some teams, you might want your team to send a meeting agenda 24 hours or 48 hours ahead of a meeting, or maybe 3 hours. You get to choose, and then Rhythm will suggest that task to the seller. Now, what's exciting to me is our platform investments have unlocked partner plays. And you can see some great examples here. Because in an industry first, we are launching with 5 awesome launch partners. We have Vidyard, Seismic, G2, bringing intent data into Salesloft and guiding seller action, HighSpot, and DocuSign. And in addition to these awesome partners, we've got plays based on seller signals that Salesloft generates, like responding to an email, submitting a forecast. And I will tell you, by the way, in a past life, I've had to send emails to sellers asking them to submit their forecast. You don't have to do that with Rhythm. We'll tell them right at the right time. We've also got meeting reminder plays and meeting follow-up plays. And to tell you more about how those last two plays come to life in Salesloft, I'm going to pass it over to our Director of Product Marketing, Albert Rhee.
Thanks, Frank. Now, I'm sure the vast majority of you in the audience would agree with Frank and I that it's a best practice to send a meeting reminder email with an agenda ahead of a customer meeting. But to our sales leaders in the audience, how many of you are confident that those emails are consistently being sent? Let that thought hang for just a moment. Now, for our sellers in the audience, I promise you, this is not to put you on the spot. In fact, in my opinion, a lot of the times, this is no fault of your own, because who here hasn't found themselves getting bogged down by fire drill after fire drill across the dozens of open opportunities that you're actively working? It's incredibly common to lose track of any given day. So we have to ask ourselves the question, how do we fill the gap between expectations and reality? Now, to answer that question, let's jump back into Rhythm. And let's pick up right where Frank left off. Now, you can see here, Rhythm has teed up an action for us to send an agenda in a meeting reminder email to Guy Hawkins. And it knows to tee this up because Rhythm knows that I have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with Guy at 11 a.m. and I haven't sent this agenda email. Now, before I even click into this action, I get opportunity level data. So I know this is a 200K deal. I know it's slated to close at the end of next month, which is actually my quarter close. And it's in the negotiating phase and has a pretty healthy 75 out of 100 deal engagement score. Okay, good to know. Now, when I click into this, just like Frank mentioned, I get taken directly to Guy Hawkins' page, and I get all of that wonderful context that I need to help me figure out what are the main discussion points I want to talk about with Guy tomorrow. Now, what's fantastic about this is Rhythm hasn't just teed up an email for Guy, it's also pre-populated it with an email template for a meeting reminder. So literally all I have to do is type in the discussion points in the agenda section that I want to add, making it super fast and super easy to complete this critical step. So I can go ahead and add that. I know what I want to talk about with Guy, and I send it off. And I've sent the email, but I haven't just sent an email. I've created a better buying experience for Guy. I've given him clarity on the things that we're going to talk about tomorrow. But even more important than that, what I've done is that I've ensured that we're going to have a productive conversation tomorrow, which is going to help me get one step closer to closed one. All right, so if we all agree that sending a meeting reminder email is a best practice, I'm sure we also agree that sending a follow-up communication after a customer call is also a best practice. You want to create that alignment. You want to share the high-level discussion points are shared across all stakeholders, and you want to drive action out of that meeting. So let's look at the next action that Rhythm has teed up for us. You can see that we have a meeting follow-up with Wade Warren, because Rhythm knows that we had a call yesterday with Wade at 5 p.m. and we haven't sent a follow-up communication. So again, we're taken to Wade Warren's profile page, where again, we have that historical context. We have all of the interactions that Wade and I have had in the past. And again, Rhythm has pre-populated this email, this time with a follow-up email template. Again, making it easier for me to finish this critical step. Now, this part I don't want you to miss. Look at the action items here, these 3 bullets. I didn't type those in. These action items were extracted and automatically populated in this email using generative AI. Generative AI that reviewed our last call transcript between Wade and I, the one we had yesterday, found the action items and automatically populated them into this email. Now, I mentioned this not because I think the technology that went into this is really cool. It's more about the value, the immense value that your sellers will get out of this. And yes, it saves them time from having to type in the action items. That's nice. But what's really important here is it helps sellers avoid missing things and letting things slip through the cracks. It helps sellers drive urgency, and it helps them drive accountability on both sides of the table, both on the seller side as well as the buyer side, so we consistently maintain deal momentum. All right, so let's say I'm reviewing these action items and I'm a little murky on the details of one of them, so I want to go back to our conversation recording and review it. So I'm going to head over to the recording conversations detail page. And right below the recording, you're going to see action items here. And these are the same 3 action items that were pre-populated into that email. And what's great about this is that they're timestamped, so I can jump to the part of the conversation that I need to review. Another thing to note, check out the right side of the recording. You're going to see the entire call transcript listed here to make it easy for you to review the call. You could also jump into the search and find the specific points in the conversation that you want to look at. All right, so let's say I've found the context I need to help me revise these action items that OpenAI has populated for me. I can go ahead and make those changes. Now, additionally, I could add in hyperlinks here so I can complete some of these action items, because looking at these opportunity level data on this specific deal that I'm working, this is another one's closing right at the end of the quarter. So I can't avoid having to stall even a single day. So let me go ahead and finish up some of these action items. I'm going to send them the content they requested, and I'm going to send this off. And just like that, in the last 2 to 3 minutes, we've completed 2 best practices. We've sent a meeting reminder email. We've also sent a follow-up email. But more importantly, we've gotten 2 critical deals that are supposed to close right at the end of my quarter, and we've gotten them both one step closer to closed one. This is the power of combining Salesloft conversations with our latest release, Rhythm. It's going to help you have more productive meetings, and it's going to help you win more deals and win them faster. Now, one more thing for our account executives and our full cycle sellers in the room. If these 2 features weren't enough, I want to show you one more thing. Now, for our closers that are more comfortable and prefer to work in Salesloft deals, I want you to know that every Rhythm action that's teed up for you, that's associated with one of your open ongoing opportunities, will also be listed right in your workflow in the pipeline summary. So you could take action, again, right in your specific workflow, directly from where you prefer to work in Salesloft deals. Rhythm makes it possible to get the things you need, to get the critical items you want to accomplish first. And so you can get them done early in the day, so you can take back control of your day. Which is why we're excited to make Rhythm available in even more of the Salesloft platform, including Salesloft deals. All right, Frank, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Albert. Well, I hope you're as excited as I am about everything that we've walked through today, because at the end of the day, momentum is everything in sales, just like it is in life. And so I want to show you some of the momentum our beta and alpha customers have gotten from Rhythm so far. And we're so excited about these results. Let's look at a couple of these quotes. This is from our customer Sin 7. They were in our beta group. Watching my reps go through Rhythm workflow is fantastic. They just run through their steps one by one, 1 click at a time, and it makes me stop and think, where was this when I was a seller? I started my career in sales. I absolutely relate to that. I could not imagine having something like this. From our beta customer clear calcs, I like how Rhythm brings up the most important things for me to do. The most important things. Time management is everything in sales, and Rhythm helps you know exactly what to do and when to do it. That is the power of AI. And we're bringing this to you in a way that no one else can, because everything is all in one spot, so I can't miss it. Let's look at some results. Now, we've talked about teams going from struggling to book meetings to booking 20% more meetings in a 1-week time period. But what happens if you're on the product for several weeks? Well, I'm excited to share that our leading customers are already seeing results like this: 37% more meetings on average. And they're doing it in fewer activities. That's what technology is supposed to do. Better results in less time. That is the promise of technology. And we're excited to bring this to you. Now, for our closers, we are seeing deal momentum accelerate. We are scaling their ability to drive momentum across more deals than ever before. And that means more sellers not just getting to their number, but beating it. This product is a game changer. It is a game changer for sellers. And we are excited to see what you do with it. But I would be remiss if I didn't share some of the other great releases we've got coming out this year. And we're going to start with our mobile app. Salesloft provides the industry-leading mobile app on iOS. This summer, for all of our sellers on Android, we're bringing that to you. You'll be able to run all of your great Salesloft workflow on Android, and later this year on both iOS and Android, you'll be able to run Rhythm as well. So no matter where you are, whether it's on a train, in a cab, or heading to that next great meeting, you can always stay on top of your work. We know time is the enemy of all deals, and Salesloft has you covered, no matter where you go. You'll see some other great enhancements from us as well later this summer, like summarization for our conversation transcripts, where we'll generate a quick summary for you so you know exactly what that call's about. That's coming out in just a few short weeks. So I want to turn it back over to Nick now. We're going to have a conversation about some of the great questions you all are putting in the chat. Again, we cannot wait to watch what you do with this product. It is the future of sales, and that future is today. Nick, what do we got in the chat?
Well, thank you, Frank. The chat is on fire, and we've got a lot of folks asking some logistics questions. A lot of folks are wondering when this is going to be available for both new customers and then folks who are already Salesloft customers. When are they going to be able to get their hands on things?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're excited. So if I'm new to Salesloft, we have customers going live on this today. If you're starting with Salesloft and you're new, you are starting today with everything we just walked through. For our existing customers, we're going to roll this out over the next several weeks. You will get a notification from us letting you know when your rollout date is. So look for that in your inbox. We'll also provide a notification in-app using our great partner Pendo for that.
Beautiful. And then some folks are also asking what the cost structure is going to look like. Is it additional? How should they be thinking about that?
Yeah, great question. So Rhythm is going to be available for all customers, and it is product aware. So if you use us just for cadence, you're going to get all of these awesome enhancements that we talked about, like the conductor AI, our rhythm focus zone, our cadence focus zone. That, by the way, is driving already, as I mentioned, teams to see 37% better outcomes. If you also use us for conversation intelligence, then we're going to pull in some of those workflows that Albert demonstrated. And if you use us for things like deals and forecasting, we'll pull that in as well. So whatever products you use, you'll get Rhythm integrated with those products.
Frank, I want to ask you sort of a personal question about building this. I watched a keynote of yours where you were talking about how your dad was a career salesperson. And at the dinner table, that was the talk of the table, which I think that was probably sort of fun, but then also sort of like, Dad, can we talk about something else? And then you personally held a quota for a while. And I have to imagine that both of those experiences informed the way that you thought about building this and building a lot of the things that you've done with Salesloft. And I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, it does. I mean, when you grow up kind of as a coach's kid, and my dad, full credit to him, was great at sales. Like, he was number one 10 times out of 1,000 people, started in the field, then went to his company's version of enterprise sales. So I just grew up around it. I mean, he literally sold for 40 years. He carried a quota for 40 years. And that is not something I take for granted, because I watched how hard he worked and how stressful that job could be, but also how rewarding. And then I sold. And so one of the things I took from watching my dad was listening to the things that got in the way during his workday and the things that he complained about. And then also thinking about the things that made it hard for me to sell. And so when we build technology here, one of the big things that we anchor our team on is pulling as much friction out of the workday for that seller as possible. Those systems should be invisible, if at all possible. You should just log in, get started. You don't need to learn how to use the software. You should just do it. You know, like, our general principle here is we design things so that you take the fewest amount of actions possible to get to your goal. Because selling is already hard enough. You don't need tools making it harder.
Well, thanks for sharing that. You know, I'm curious about your take on AI and sales in general. And where this question comes from is, one of the things that we talk about a lot on 30 Minutes to President's Club is there are so many distractions available to sellers. And I talk to sellers who are like, well, I need to do my social selling, and I've got to start to build, you know, more industry knowledge, and I'm going to this trade show, and I've got travel, and oh, this customer that I just signed, should they be a reference? Let me try calling them and staying in touch with them. And it's really it's very easy to get discombobulated as a salesperson. And the advice that I normally give is you got to focus on the big two. And the big two are creating new pipeline and advancing current pipeline. And if you narrow your focus to those two things, those are the most important things to execute on as a seller. And I talk to a lot of folks who have concerns around AI because they think it's going to be a distraction from the big two. And I'm curious what you would say to folks who have that concern or fear.
Well, I think you're right. If you look at the way technology has been implemented so far, one of the things that we learned when building this was if you go talk to sellers, they feel like they are working for their technology. Mm-hmm. And that's backwards. That is exactly backwards. The technology should be working for you. You should not be working for your technology. And if the AI is not working for you, you need to find something else. So when we build our products, we think of it from the vantage point of, how do I take work out of the workday for the seller? How do I simplify the workday for the seller? And you talked about a lot of the challenges that sellers face. They have so many different solutions today, and each one of those individually was supposed to make life better. But the problem is, collectively, they've actually made it worse. And so if AI doesn't simplify the workday for the seller to do the two things that you mentioned, because that is the lifeblood of sales, it is creating more pipeline and then making sure I balance my time to close the things that I've got, then it's getting in the way. And, you know, fundamentally, what I think a lot of providers have forgotten is that we're building for people, and the technology is there to support the people. It is not to replace the people, because selling, I mean, I learned this from my dad, it is about one person connecting with another to solve a problem. That's it, right? It is about humans helping humans, building trust, understanding one another, and solving problems. Technology cannot replace that. It can't. It can help. It can support you. We often talk about on my team building Iron Man suits, not the Terminator. But if the technology gets in the way, it's the problem. So AI that tries to replace humans, it's just going to make life worse. AI that supports humans is the way to go.
Can you give me a sense of what the sort of scoping and product investigation side of things look like? I have to imagine that you sat down with current users. I have to imagine you sat down with like prospective customers who didn't use anything like Salesloft. Like, what actually went into building this thing? Because I have to imagine, Frank, like you're the sort of person who's got really, really big ideas. And I'm curious, like, because you can't do everything when you're building something like this. Like, how did you decide the wins you were going to set up?
Yeah, it's not easy. You're right, because sales is a challenging profession. I actually think it's the hardest job in business. It is the only job where your results are published for everyone else to see. Like no one else in the company has that. Everyone knows every month, every quarter how you're doing. So it's a lot of pressure, and you're only as good as your last quarter. So there are a lot of challenges we could have solved for sellers. And one of the first things that we did is we just went out and we watched people work. You know, it's kind of the path hidden in plain sight. But when I talk to a lot of my peers, whether it's at other sales tech solution companies or other product leaders elsewhere, they don't want to do it, right? It's kind of like cold calls. We all know cold calls are good for us in sales, but most sellers don't want to do it. So we go out and we watch people work. We literally watch them work, whether it's in their home, it is in the office, and we see what gets in the way. And that starts to help us narrow down to the challenges that sellers need us to solve for them. Then we design, and then we get feedback on the designs, and then we prototype, and we let people test the prototype. And by the time we got to alpha, and again, we've been building this for over a year. We've been iterating with customers for over a year to bring this product to people. We know it's ready because not only are we watching people use it, we're getting the data back, and the data is telling us, do the recommendations we're providing with AI, are they really accelerating outcomes? Are they really driving deal momentum? And are people using it? And the answer is yes. And so that's how you narrow it all down. You watch people work, you identify the most painful problems, and you start there.
Can you talk to me about the watching the people work side of things? Because I have to imagine you've seen some interesting stuff. Like I'm going to ask you a couple, but like, I'm curious about the funniest moment that you saw, because I have to imagine there were some laughs there. Like, what was the most creative thing that you saw somebody doing in their workflow? Like, talk to me about some of those standout moments of like literally standing next to someone or sitting next to them while they're on their computer or on the phone.
Yeah. One of the things you'll notice when working with sellers is they're very creative. They're going to find ways to get to their goal no matter what. Mm-hmm. So we will often go into companies and they'll say, hey, our CRM is set up perfectly and our sellers are just going to live there. And then we'll go and we'll watch the seller work and we'll find out that like all of the data is in a spreadsheet, or it's on Post-it notes, or it's in like a notebook on their desk. And it's living there because the solutions that they're supposed to use are actually making it harder and not easier to sell. And we saw that pattern like everywhere that we went. And that is why we've designed this product the way that we have it. It's to pull all of those challenges out of the seller's workday and make it easier. I mean, in most of the places we went, whether it was watching somebody at home or in the office, you see a lot of like Post-it notes on screens trying to remind the seller what to do next, or complex spreadsheets trying to kind of build what we've already built for them. And it's unfortunate, and that's why we built this product. It's to solve those problems for people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a Post-it note guy. I'm an index card guy and a tape guy. And I suppose that's a low-tech version of a Post-it note now that I think about it. But
my favorite was that we watched the seller who would do voice memos. They'd be out and about, and they would leave voice memos to themselves, and then go back and play those things.
Wow. Yeah, I've done that when I'm traveling before, where it's like you're going from meeting to meeting to meeting, and I'm like racing down the streets of San Francisco, and I'm like, okay, what the heck do I got to do? And those voice notes get listened to half the time when it's me, but that's because it's me. That's a Nick issue. We've got a question in the chat. Some folks are asking about like the benefits of Rhythm for pipeline generating teams, folks that are using Cadence.
Yeah. So what's really great about this product is it's role specific in the recommendations it makes. So if I'm not closing, what I'm going to see in my Rhythm focus zone, that prioritized list of actions, is two things. It's going to show me my most important Cadence steps to do today, and it's going to pull forward buyers that through their behavior we're recognizing are highly likely to convert now, right? I mean, momentum is everything. So pulling them forward at the right time, making sure that those people don't slip through the cracks before we lose momentum with that person is everything. So what I would see in that list and the way that we are seeing our customers use it already is, as an SDR, I might come in and I'll start there. I'll take a look at that list. It'll tell me exactly what the most important stuff to do is, and then I'll run it. I'll run it because I'll know I'll get to those buyers that are most likely to convert now. Yeah. And that is often the difference between, hitting and missing your number. It's getting to the people that are most ready now. So I'm going to see it right there. And that's what's been driving some of those outsized results we saw with the alpha and beta customers.
I mean, I think it's one of the exciting things about what you're building, because one of the things I talk to a lot of sellers about is it doesn't matter how well you do something if you shouldn't even be doing that thing in the first place. And what that really means is taking the right action at the right time with the right person in a skillful way is the path to success as a seller. And I talk to a lot of salespeople that they over-rotate on how they're going to open their cold call, or their structure for a discovery call, or their negotiation game plan, and not enough on like, am I talking to the right person? Because like, I could call a bunch of unqualified leads and have the best opener and the best product in the world, but if they're not qualified, it's trying to get blood from a stone. And what you're building actually helps folks focus on where they need to do the work so they can focus on skillful execution, not necessarily, well, gosh, I got 90 minutes free. What do I do next?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because at the end of the day, the most important decision we make every day is how we spend our time. Mm-hmm. And I want to point out some of the partners that we've got at launch really make it easier for the seller to focus. So if we think about G2 for a second, one of our intent partners, if I'm prospecting, I'm working through a cadence, and it recognizes that one of the accounts that I'm working is now suddenly in market, and maybe I don't know, it's going to pull that person up to the top of that action list so that I'm focusing on the people that are most ready now. Because you're exactly right. Like, time management is everything, and Rhythm helps you make sure that you are spending your time where it's going to drive the most leverage.